Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. It is the cabin of a passenger aircraft. The interior has been designed with Rosewood, a high-quality, expensive wood product used to manufacture high-end products. Now, it is found in some tropical regions of the world. And the reason why we're telling you about it is because it is also available in Ghana. As happens to almost every natural resource here in this country, this is also being abused. People have been logging with impunity. Not even a ban imposed to prevent rosewood from going extinct will stop illegal loggers from cutting the tree for export. Well, over the weekend, there was a bloody clash between two rival groups fighting over rosewood logs in Fonsi in the Upper West region. 3 persons are being treated for life-threatening injuries. 2 others did not survive the attacks. Rafiq Salam is our correspondent in the Upper West region and will be joining me with the very latest update on this particular story. Let's find out if we have Rafiq, but also my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo, who is head of the Agric and Technology Desk here at JoyNews, is also here with me in the studio, and he's been doing some work on it way before this story broke yesterday. So he'll be telling us a bit more about that. But let's start with Rafiq for the very latest on that particular story. Hello, Rafiq.
Hello, Gifty.
Rafiq, tell us what's more.
An emergency meeting, dissect meeting that was organized by the West District Assembly, District Security Committee, ended a while ago. And then also they have strategies to put stringent measures to prevent people from cutting the rosewood away from the district. You know, the cutting of rosewood in the Upper West region is now rampant, and then people are doing it illegally, even though there has been a ban on it. Even in the West District, 30th November was the day that was fixed for the banning of this particular endangered species. And so the meeting just ended, and what is really happening is that the members of the dissect currently are meeting with the 2 feudal factions. They have gone, after the meeting, they met one side, and then they have met the other side too, and currently they are on their way to visit the crime scene. And that's what's really happening at Fancy at the moment.
So the people who were injured, do we have any updates on them?
For now, they are responding to treatment. That's what the doctors at the Upper West Regional Hospital, led by Dr. Barnabas Ganda, who is the medical superintendent of the hospital. He says that they are really in safe hands and they are responding to treatment. You know, initially there were 4 people that were brought to the hospital, 2 passed on, 1 Saturday night and then 1 also late evening yesterday. And so 2 people are at the hospital. They have undergone operations and then to remove their pallets from their body. And according to Dr. Barnabas Ganda, they are feeling better than the 2 nights before.
And what's the police saying about their investigation so far?
The police said that they have taken statements of the 3 that they have arrested. The 3 included the assemblyman for the Fancy electoral area and also 1 man who happens to be a laborer working with the Ghana Police Service at Fancy. And so these are the personalities that are picked. They haven't given us the names yet, but these are their positions. And the police are saying that they have taken their statements and then they will soon put them before the law court.
Rafiq, thank you very much for that update. Now, let's have a conversation now because we also have Clementa Park, who is Member of Parliament for Bursa North, I believe. Where this problem of illegal rosewood logging is at its peak. He'll be joining us for that conversation as well. But Joseph, you're here. You've been doing some work in this area and about rosewood way before we heard of this attack yesterday, or I think 3 days ago. What did you find in your work?
So you'd recall that sometime in 2014, then Minister for Land and Natural Resources, Alhaji Nisa Hussaini, did a press conference and announced that government was placing a ban on the harvesting and export of rosewoods. And this became necessary because at a point in time, the indication was that it was going extinct and that more than 80% of the total amount of rosewoods that we have in the northern part of the country, the Upper East, Upper West, northern part of the country, some portions of the Brunei region, had already been harvested within a space of just about 4-5 years after, particularly, it came to the attention of the Chinese that we have large stocks of it within our enclave. And this is a very expensive species. Currently, for example, you check on Alibaba.com, and a container, 20-footer container, of that is going for $12,500 US. That's almost $500 million Ghana city, and that's what it's going for. It's one of the very expensive, expensive species. As you indicated, it's used for the furniture in planes,
aircrafts.
Very expensive furniture as well. It's used for some other musical equipment and all. That's what it's used for. Mainly in China.
So we heard with a story that broke yesterday, and I heard about Rosewood way back in the years and about how it's been illegally logged. So fast forward to 2019, we're still having to deal with this problem, and people have died just yesterday. What did you find in terms of how the illegal logging business goes?
So there's a problem there. Despite government's repeated claim that there's a ban on the harvesting of rosewood, they again claim that before the ban came into force in 2014, some of the rosewoods had been harvested already and were lying in the forest without any use. So they needed to get them out of there. So they issued what they describe as salvage permits to a number of companies.
Let me interrupt you briefly and announce that we have a Clementa Park, who is a member of parliament for Busa North, on the line. Mr. Park, thank you very much for joining the conversation.
Yes, good evening. I'm actually the member of parliament for Busa South.
Oh, Busa South.
That's correct.
I beg your pardon for that. But thank you. Do hang on briefly for me whilst Joseph tells us about this government action that was taken.
Yes, so a number of permits, more than 20 of them, to companies to go do what they describe as salvaging, where they claim that some of the rosewoods had gone down, not by
illegal logging, but that they fell by itself.
And some of them were actually brought down before the coming into force of the ban.
Okay.
They said that some of them had to be gotten out to allow for construction works to go on in some of those enclaves. So then they issued the salvaging permits, and the indication is that a lot of the companies that were handed the said salvaging permit, in fact, I'm holding a copy of one of them here right now.
And if I take a look at this, I see
this is from the Forestry Commission, signed by the then acting executive director, and it's dated August 2017.
Okay.
And this is giving the permit to a company called Mese Tensor Furniture Company to salvage rosewood from the Bonahafo, Upper East, Upper West, and Northern regions.
So essentially, Joseph, what this company was supposed to do was go to the forest and pick up these rosewood that have been
fell as a result of natural circumstances. Maybe rainstorm, maybe there was a
so they were to clear these.
They were to clear these.
But used as well for business, right?
And then the indication is that some of the companies are taking advantage of this, because when they get into the forest, it's them and the forest.
And the forest.
No third party.
So you can cut down new trees as well.
So allegedly they do that, and when they are stepping out of the forest and the security officials stop them, then they show some of these permits and claim that they went in there to salvage some of the rosewood. To the extent that in places like forest reserves, like the Tumu Forest Reserve, some of the harvesting of the rosewood is ongoing. We actually spoke to a gentleman who leads a task force in the Tumu area that has been helping to stop the activities of rosewood merchants.
Okay, hang on, I'll come back to you, Joseph. Let's get to Mr. Clementa Park. Mr. Park, you've heard what's happening. I'm sure this is very known to you. This is familiar territory. How bad is the situation, and what's been done about it? Hello, Mr. Park? Okay, looks like we lost him. We'll raise him back on the line so we'll get some more information from him since he's a representative of the people. So this situation is bad enough, and it seems to have been worsened by a seeming legitimization that allows for people to go on and pick these woods. So Mr. Park is back on the line. Mr. Park, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We're talking about rosewood, illegal rosewood logging. And this seems to be very rampant in your constituency. How bad would you say it is?
Well, first of all, let me say good afternoon to you and the rest of the panelists. and I truly wish I could have been in the studio myself. But I must say that your colleague, Opoku Gaku, has done a lot of good work on this subject, and his work certainly has complemented my own advocacy. To say the least, the situation is as bad as ever. And indeed, as he has rightly narrated, my own conclusion, even before I come to what occurred in the Upper West region, is that this has largely gone on as a result of official connivance.
Official connivance,
there is a clear scheme in play between the so-called merchants who deal in Rosewood on the one hand, officials at the Forestry Commission on the other, and indeed, persons at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources.
Okay.
Because if you look at the law, and the day I'll be in the studio, I will have the law, the needed law in hand. The only time that endangered tree species like rosewood, among many others, can be harvested or salvaged, quote unquote, is if they happen to be in an area that is in the catchment zone of a major developmental activity. In this case, the expansion of settlements, the expansion of large-scale farms, or the construction of dams and or roads. But if you look at the permits that have been issued since the various bans have been announced, these permits have been issued supposedly to companies and entities to salvage logs of rosewood in parts of the country where none of these are happening, including my
Mr.
own,
Park, I'd like for you to hold on because I have someone from the commission, the Forestry Commission, to help answer the question or to help deal with the issue you have just raised. Mr. Kwadwo Usofriye is the Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission. He joins us on the line as well. Sir, thank you very much for your time. I trust you're doing well.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So you've heard what Mr. Park says. He's a member of Parliament for Busa South, and he said that the situation is bad as far as illegal logging of rosewood is concerned. He's talking about connivance, official connivance from people from your commission and people from the ministry as well. And this is made easier by the permission you give to people to be able to, quote, salvage rosewood. How do you respond to that, sir?
Well, it is sad, isn't it, that you should have an honorable member of parliament who respectfully makes some sweeping statements without any evidence whatsoever to say that there is an official connivance, in respect of this. And he mentions Forestry Commission, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Let me deny emphatically that we do not officially sanction any illegality as far as rosewood or any other species are concerned. We don't. And the ministry also do not do that. What is happening is this, that as the honorable member of parliament would agree, you have people from the very area who do the cutting, as it were, unlawfully. And once they are on the ground, farmers and other people use it for purposes of charcoal, without the state benefiting whatsoever from that. And so what we do, and from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, they then give people the salvage permit to go and salvage the trees which are already on the ground. So the officers is not get on the front.
Mr. Park, I'll let you come in. I'll let you come in to respond to what.
It is not the Forestry Commission.
Ms. Osefriye, let's help us answer this. I have a Forestry Commission document here, and it says approval for the grant of permit to salvage rosewood. And in this, you grant to Tensor Furniture Company Limited the permit to salvage rosewood from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regions. Bonahafo, Upper East, Upper West, and Northern region. That's quite a spread. To what extent was it necessary to salvage rosewood in these areas? Were there any developmental activities going on that require that these trees be removed?
If you had waited for me to complete the submission that I was making, the emphasis and in the letter that you read, says salvage, and nobody has been given any permit to go and harvest any rosewood anywhere else in this country. And if you came to this current state of affairs, there were two rival groups who had harvested the rosewood, and somebody else, another person, had gone there to salvage, and then it brought about this gunshot, where unfortunately somebody lost his life. So it has nothing to do with Forestry Commission, getting people to go there or giving permits to go and harvest anything. The indigenous themselves do it, and then once they do it and they're on the ground, and then we have information that there are some rosewood to be salvaged. People then bring an application to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and then that permit is granted. And what Forestry Commission does is to go to the field to ascertain whether or not indeed there are blocks, to be salvaged. And if there are, then we fashion rules and regulations for the conduct of that. We do not, and I want to emphasize that Forestry Commission nor the Ministry do not allow anybody to go to the bank or to the forest
Mr. Osefri, of course you shouldn't, because the law doesn't even permit you to allow for any illegality. So that's granted. But the question I asked, which I don't think has been answered, is whether or not there was the pressing need for you to issue this permit for this company to go into these areas to, quote, salvage the rosewood.
As long as you have the rosewood lying to be salvaged, then it is right that the permit will be granted for those companies to go and salvage them. So, first of all, people confuse harvesting and salvaging and so on and so forth. But we are clear in our mind that as long as the rosewood are lying there, and how it can be done is another moot point. And it is not Forestry Commission that does. It is not the ministry that does. These are individuals from the various, towns and villages. They use it to burn charcoal. And I've said that the country do not benefit from that. And so instead of allowing farmers to cut them and burn them, we then issue the salvage tax. So first of all, if you want to blame people, blame farmers, blame the individuals who go to do that. But certainly you cannot blame it on a Forestry Commission, nor can you blame it on the ministry. You cannot.
Mr. Osefri, it's not about blame game, it's about getting people to do the right thing, and your commission is tasked with the responsibility to make sure that this process is regulated and to make sure that these species are protected. But we have videos and pictures of freshly cut rosewoods as in recent times from these places where you've given the permit to people to salvage, but they're not salvaging if it is freshly cut rosewood. They're cutting.
Look, Honorable Member of Parliament, stop using sweeping statements like that. This omnibus, you don't even have any.
No, it's not coming from the MP. It's coming from the documents I have, and it's coming from work that we have done here at JoyNews. We have been to from JoyNews. We have been to the ground. We have seen freshly cut rosewood. We do have evidence. No, we do have evidence of freshly cut rosewood from these areas.
But what does it presuppose? Does it presuppose that it's a Forestry Commission that is conniving with people, or the Ministry of what? You don't have that evidence. You do not even know who cut it, do you? You went there, according to you, you saw freshly cut rosewood. Do you know who did it? You don't. So how do you make stupid statements to say that Forestry Commission?
It means that the commission is not doing a good job monitoring the area, doesn't it?
I can agree with you. Look, let me tell you something. For instance, you have a forest which is about 45 square kilometers. You have only 4 people manning the place. And in the rosewood instance, these are outside forest reserve. And when it is off reserve, it is not the Forestry Commission who has the responsibility to do that. This is outside the forest. And so if you ask the minister there, and he will tell you it is off reserve. And so you must distinguish between off reserve and on reserve. And Forestry Commission, our duty is not to protect the off reserve areas. We don't.
Mr. Park.
Instead of that, we must out of our own way to do all that.
Okay.
At the expense of our own people. The last time, 2 of our people were shot. And they almost lost.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Mr. Osefrie, let me bring Mr. Park in to hear his thoughts as well on all that you've said and what's happening. Mr. Park.
Yes, look, let's be honest and straightforward. The commissioner for the Forestry Commission, he knows the truth. He's beating about the bush. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
What he has said is that you are making sweeping statements.
I say the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources knows the truth. He's beating about the bush.
He says, do you have evidence? He says, do you have evidence to the effect that there is official connivance?
But is it not obvious? Listen to me, and you just listen to the parameters, and then draw your own conclusion. As will become clear when Joy FM airs the documentary, which I believe is finally going to expose the fraudulent activities going on where officials of this government are taking advantage of a provision in the Act to destroy and facilitate the destruction of the Savannah Woodland Ecological Zone when they should be doing otherwise. When the Forestry Commissioner was speaking, he made the point that they only issue permits when information gets to them that there are logs somewhere in some parts of the country. First of all, he also admitted that the number of forestry officials are not sufficient to cover the entire span of land and forest.
Mr. Osefrie,
how do they get to even know that those logs are present in the locations that they claim to know in the first place? Look, the scheme is very simple. People go and apply for permits. They then go and sponsor persons to go and cut the rosewood, and they use that as justification through their connivance in the Forestry Commission to get the permit to then go and salvage. The trees did not just fall on the ground by themselves. How did the trees get on the forest floor in the first place? In part of the country where you yourself has admitted that you don't have enough forestry officials to monitor.
Dr. Park,
who do they think that they are deceiving?
Dr. Park,
don't we know?
I'll have Mr. Osefrie. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I'll have our man who went on the ground. He went on the ground. He's been doing a lot of work about Rosewood. He's here in the studio. Let's find out from him what he saw on the ground, and then I take your final comments on that, Mr. Osefrie. That's okay. Thank you.
I think there are questions for officials of the Forestry Commission to answer in terms of how the harvesting in some of these places went on. Classical example is the
tell us what you saw, right?
Is the Tumu Forest Reserve, for example, that we visited. And in fact, the claim Mr. Osefrie makes that farmers may have gone in there to cut down trees and all. It's interesting because the point is, you go in there, you find ties, tie marks of trucks that are coming.
Fresh.
You see, and fresh, lying there. The indication that it wasn't an ordinary farmer who went there to attempt chopping it and got off the rosewood. And these are trees with very huge logs that clearly from what you see with the cutting was not done maybe with machete and axe. Most likely was done with equipment and machinery.
Okay, so that's what you saw.
Yes, and some of these are happening in forest reserves that in efforts to get in, there is some restriction. Forestry Commission officials will be asking you questions about, how come you are getting in there? And even some of the communities are battling some of the Forestry Commission officials, demanding that they would want those lands released to them to do farming, and it's not being given to them. So then there are questions about how the people get access to some of these areas and how they're able to move in heavy machinery like that when the police are in the enclave, the Forestry Commissioners are in the enclave, and they know that there's a ban on harvesting on rosewood. And some of these activities are not even permitted. in areas like forest reserves.
Okay, so here is a man who has been on the ground. He's been monitoring this situation of Rosewood because he's doing some documentary on it, which will be airing very soon. And he's telling us what he's seen. Gentlemen, I'd like to take. We've run out of time, unfortunately. I'll take your final submission on this. And then
thank you very much. You know what? Some few weeks ago, the Parliamentary Select Committee, led by the Honourable Member of Parliament, went to the place, asking what he's reported, and whether or not, when he got there, he found the things that he's speaking of to you. And which is why I'm saying that, it is a bit rich on his part to be omnibus about the things that he talks about. And let him tell us who and who they are the officials who have been conniving with other persons and doing this. And so it's unfortunate that you have a member of parliament, and an honourable member of parliament at that, who makes that statement. It's about time that we spoke to the issues and the facts.
So sticking to the issues, Mr. Usofriye, what do you think is the way forward?
But let me tell you that
the way forward, sir. The way forward.
The way forward is this: we continue. If it is a forest reserve, we will continue to monitor and to ensure that people do not, enter our forest with the view.
Do you admit that you are doing? Do you admit that the commission is doing a bad job monitoring, because we're still seeing people abusing the law?
We get to the forest reserve, and we are doing the best that we can in the circumstances. But if it is off reserve, you see, you should be able to distinguish between what an off reserve is and what a forest reserve is.
Okay.
And that is why your people are making the wrong conjecture.
Okay.
We do not cover off reserve.
Thank you
so
very
if
much.
people go to these areas and cut down trees, it is not for the Forest Commission to be held responsible for those activities.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And I'm sure that when we do air the documentary, we'll call on you and we'll continue the conversation from there. But Dr. Park, a quick final word from you as well.
Well, if you want the truth, I think that we should look at the recommendations made by the Committee on Lands and Forestry based on a statement that I made in Parliament almost about a year ago. And if you want to ask me, the most important thing we can do, and as far as this is concerned, is to abolish the issuance of permits as the law currently grants the Forestry Commissioner. That is the only way that we can save our rosewood and save endangered species, particularly in the savanna zones of this country. As long as that opportunity exists, the Forestry Commission, their assigns and their associates will find ways to issue permits for trees to be cut, and then they will turn around and issue salvage permits for those cut fresh logs to be carted away under the auspices of salvage permits. The truth must be told. And Sir John knows the truth. He knows what is going on. It is not right. And we would expose all of them for using the resources that are supposed to be used to protect the public interest and the privileges that they have to work against the people of Ghana.
Dr. Park, thank you very much for your submission as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation. We will still come to you for to continue this conversation when we do air the documentary on Rosewood. But I've been having this conversation with Kojo Usofriye, who is the CEO of the Forestry Commission, and also Dr. Clementa Park, who is Member of Parliament for Busa South, in whose area this problem is rampant. Joseph Apugako is head of a Greek and technology desk here at JoyNews. He's been doing some work on Rosewood. Your final word as we wrap up. What should we expect in this documentary? Let's go that way.
Yes, so we'll find out what has been happening in different parts of the country, Upper East, Upper West, and Northern regions with regards to the harvesting of rosewood, despite the ban that's supposed to be in place. The simple recommendation is this: the local communities have views for these rosewood trees, so that if one way or the other they fall by themselves. In fact, some of them use them in the construction of their homes. They cut the bark, soak them in water for days, and use it to paint their clay houses as a way to keep it strong. And they use the wood itself as ways to hold on to the ceiling and all. The recommendation is just maybe, and the parliamentary committee made that recommendation, it's time to pull brakes on even issuing the permit for the salvaging. When the trees come down, let the local communities make use of them, so that then anyone who is exporting rosewood would be considered, in quotes, someone who is committing a crime, and be dealt with. That's probably the way to go. As long as that window exists, people will take advantage.
People will take advantage, and that's the position of Dr. Clementa Park. But the commission, the Forestry Commission, insists that they're doing the best that they can under the circumstances. That documentary will be coming on very soon, and we'll be continuing that discussion. Joseph, thank you very much for coming. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is head of our Agric and Technology Desk here at JoyNews.